Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Authorities in Phoenix, Arizona say that two men are lucky not to have been seriously injured or killed this week after they allegedly drove down a steep embankment and into a river bottom following a police chase. According to reports, the incident began sometime on the evening of December 6th when police in the city of Tempe were investigating a stolen car. Officers followed the two male occupants as they drove over the city line into Phoenix, attempting to make a traffic stop near 40th Street and University Drive. However, the driver refused to pull over and started to flee the area after hitting one of the police patrol cars. Officers reportedly chased the suspects as they headed west, but eventually made the choice to abandon the pursuit due to the men driving erratically at a high rate of speed. Despite this, police continued to patrol the area and keep an eye out for the suspects. It wasn't long before they were spotted again. This time, they weren't going anywhere though. It turned out that while trying to flee the area, the suspects had driven off of a steep embankment and were trapped in the Salt River bottom just off of Interstate 10. While it's unclear whether they had done this intentionally or accidentally, they had plunged more than 200 feet and now needed to be rescued. The operation was reportedly carried out by the Phoenix Fire Department, who had to scale two 100-foot cliffs to get the suspects to safety. Authorities say the men were both extremely lucky, and that despite the dangerous situation, only one of the suspects needed to be taken to the hospital with minor injuries to his ribs. The men have now been identified as 24-year-old Markel Johnson and 26-year-old Kevin Turner. At the time of this recording, both men reportedly remain in custody and are facing undisclosed drug and theft charges. Authorities in Traverse City, Michigan say that a man allegedly got a little too into character last week when he dressed up as the Grinch at a holiday party and ended up under arrest after channeling his inner mean one. It all started on the night of December 3rd, when some employees from a local oil and gas equipment company were attending their annual work Christmas party at the Hotel Indigo. It was just before midnight, and some of those present had allegedly indulged a little too much in the Christmas spirits, when an argument allegedly started between several of the co-workers in the bar area. The man who reportedly instigated the fight was 30-year-old Tucker Lee Davis, who had apparently dressed up for the festive occasion as the Grinch. According to reports, at first it looked like the situation was under control when the Grinch's friend, 30-year-old Ryan Jones, who incidentally was dressed as a reindeer, managed to corral him and walk him out of the bar area and towards the lobby. However, things reportedly heated up once again soon after, eventually drawing the attention of some of the hotel's employees. With a fistfight now happening between the Grinch and some others by the lobby's elevators, one of the hotel employees, 35-year-old Jared Archbold, decided to intervene. However, when Archbold blocked the elevator doors from closing, he was allegedly pushed out and onto the ground by the reindeer. Once on the ground, the Grinch jumped on top and began to pummel him. While thankfully Archbold wasn't seriously hurt, his watch was reportedly broken and he was left with minor injuries to one of his eyes. Police arrived soon after and placed the Grinch, aka Davis, under arrest. He is now facing misdemeanor assault and battery charges. The reindeer, aka Jones, meanwhile, was spared charges after it was allegedly determined that he had been trying to de-escalate things and hadn't meant to push Archbold over. He was merely trying to remove his co-worker from the situation. As for Davis's motive behind the crime, it's difficult to say. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Authorities in Clark County, Nevada say that one man is dead and another is now facing numerous charges after they allegedly attempted to carjack two women and one of them was forced to fight back. According to reports, the incident began sometime on November 19th when the two victims, who have not been identified by name, traveled to a friend's house in North Las Vegas for an early Thanksgiving celebration. After arriving at the house early, the two women decided to sit around in their vehicle close to the property on Coleman Street and San Miguel Avenue and wait for a bit before heading inside. However, it wasn't long before they were terrifyingly interrupted. As the two friends sat talking, all of a sudden, another vehicle quickly pulled up and parked directly in front of them, blocking them in. Then, either 2 or 3 armed men jumped out of this vehicle and started heading toward the women. Before the women could react, 2 of the men had grabbed them and started pulling them out of the vehicle. Once the owner of the vehicle was thrown from the driver's seat, one of the suspects got inside and started trying to operate the car. After telling her friend to run, the vehicle owner reportedly realized that the suspect was having trouble getting her car into drive. Apparently, the car operated on a push-to-start system, and the man wasn't familiar with how it worked. Not only that, but in his confusion, the suspect had placed the gun he was carrying on his lap. Seeing that the man wasn't paying attention to the weapon, the vehicle owner grabbed the gun before trying to run away herself. While the woman was able to grab the weapon, she only made it a few steps before being tackled to the ground by the same suspect. The two struggled, and the woman tried to escape, but she was unable to. That's when she allegedly managed to turn around and shoot the man instead. After freeing herself, the woman ran onto a nearby property and hid in a side yard, as another of the suspects fired shots at her and missed. When police arrived at the scene, they found the suspect who had been hit dead from a gunshot wound to the head. The remaining suspect or suspects had fled. Both women were physically unharmed, and though the vehicle owner was initially taken into custody, she was later released once the shooting was determined to be in self-defense. This week, authorities announced that they had arrested one of the other suspects who allegedly took part in the botched carjacking, who they identified as 18-year-old Jalen Morrison. Morrison was reportedly arrested on December 2nd after surveillance footage taken near the crime scene placed his vehicle in the area, and shell casings from a gun he had were allegedly found to match ones recovered from the shooting. Police say that Morrison was also a known associate of the deceased suspect, who so far has not been identified by name. The teenager is now facing numerous charges, including second-degree kidnapping, attempted robbery with a deadly weapon, burglary with the use of a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit robbery, and attempted grand larceny of a vehicle. At the time of this recording, it's unclear if police are still searching for a third suspect. Authorities in Tillamook County, Oregon say that 2 women have been tracked down and arrested this week after they were connected to the alleged murder of a man found in a state forest. The case began sometime on December 2nd when a deputy from the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office discovered the body of a 52-year-old man while making routine visits to local campsites within the Tillamook State Forest. According to reports, the victim had been shot and was found at a campsite on the East Fork of the Trask River. The man's dog was allegedly found tied to a tree nearby. There were shell casings at the scene, and the 52-year-old's 2002 light blue Toyota Sienna minivan was missing. After a brief investigation, authorities were able to identify 2 suspects in connection with the killing: 40-year-old Alyssa Sturgill and 41-year-old Lisa Peasley. Police say that based on previous interactions with the pair, they knew that the women had been staying at a campsite close to where the victim was found and had been living out of their car. That vehicle was found abandoned near the crime scene. After alerting other law enforcement agencies all over the western U.S. to be on the lookout for the female suspects, the women were reportedly spotted driving the victim's minivan in Mineral County, Nevada 2 days later. They were stopped and placed under arrest. They are now each facing a number of charges, including second-degree murder, first-degree assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and first-degree theft. At the time of this recording, Sturgill and Peasley are awaiting extradition back to Oregon. The circumstances that led up to the murder currently remain a mystery. Authorities in Dade County, Georgia say that they are searching for a 32-year-old fugitive this week after he was able to pull off quite the brazen vanishing act while in the middle of being taken into custody. According to reports, the incident took place on December 9th in an undisclosed part of the county. After having his hands cuffed behind his back, 32-year-old Tommy Morgan was reportedly put in the back of a Dade County patrol car by the arresting officer. The officer was apparently still standing outside of the vehicle when somehow Morgan managed to move his hands in front of him, force his way through the partition separating the front and back of the patrol car, and climb into the driver's seat. He then sped off in the car, hitting another police vehicle as he drove away. By the time officers managed to start pursuing Morgan in the remaining vehicles, he had allegedly disappeared out of sight. While police soon found their stolen patrol car abandoned in a ditch about a mile away, by that time, Morgan was nowhere to be found. A canine unit managed to track the 32-year-old for a few more miles, but eventually lost the scent. At the time of this recording, Dade County officials are requesting help from members of the public, asking that anyone with any information concerning Morgan's whereabouts come forward. Though reports don't mention what the 32-year-old was originally arrested for, police say that he is now wanted on charges of felony escape, motor vehicle theft, and interference with government property. Authorities in Pinellas County, Florida say that a 30-year-old police officer is facing charges this week after he allegedly committed an equally gross and obnoxious crime at a local hotel bar. According to reports, the incident took place on the morning of December 5th at Jimmy B's Beach Bar, an establishment located within the Beachcomber Hotel in the city of St. Pete's Beach. It began around 12:30 a.m. when one of the employees made a trip to the ice machine to grab some ice for the bar. What he allegedly found there was equally disgusting and quite frankly annoying. 30-year-old Henry Capouch was peeing right into the part of the machine where the ice was located. Understandably, upon realizing what was happening, the employee immediately told Capouch to stop. The 30-year-old reportedly responded by swearing at the employee and then attacking him. Thankfully, a security guard who also worked for the hotel was able to intervene and apparently managed to stop Capouch, who walked back down to the beach to where his girlfriend was. When police arrived a short time later and were escorted down to the beach area, Capouch was allegedly still sitting on the beach like nothing had happened. He was apparently just as uncooperative with the police as he had been with the hotel staff, though was eventually placed under arrest. According to reports, the 30-year-old is a 5-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department and was on vacation at the time. Unsurprisingly, reports state that he was also drunk. He has since been charged with simple battery and disorderly conduct. Chicago police say that they are now conducting an internal investigation into the officer's alleged actions as well. Authorities in Northern California say that they are investigating a terrifying carjacking this week after a 33-year-old man allegedly stopped to offer what he thought was help to a stranded motorist, only to be viciously attacked by multiple suspects. According to reports, the incident began sometime before 11 p.m. on December 7th when the victim, identified only as a 33-year-old man, was driving through a part of Sutter County just southwest of Yuba City. The man was traveling along when he allegedly spotted a woman standing next to a black SUV at the side of the road. She flagged the 33-year-old down and appeared as though she was in need of help. However, as soon as the 33-year-old got out of his vehicle and started approaching the woman, 2 unknown men got out of the SUV. One was reportedly armed with what looked like a gun, while the other was holding a knife. The man said that the trio of suspects ordered him onto the ground, zip-tied his legs, and then stole his wallet. Terrifyingly, they then doused him in gasoline and set him alight before taking off in both the SUV and his vehicle. The man was apparently able to put out the flames by rolling around on the ground. He then called police. While authorities were reportedly able to recover the 33-year-old's abandoned vehicle, as well as a replica firearm several miles away from the crime scene, so far, they say they haven't made any arrests and no suspects have been identified. All the victim was apparently able to tell police was that he, quote, perceived his attackers to be of Middle Eastern descent, though reports do not specify exactly what this means. At the current time, police say that their investigation continues. The extent of the victim's injuries have so far not been released. Authorities in Montgomery County, Maryland say that an investigation into the brutal murder of a 61-year-old gas station attendant got even worse this week when authorities made a chilling discovery inside the home of the alleged killer. According to reports, the whole thing began just after 3 p.m. on December 8th, when 31-year-old Teray Moore walked into the Dash-In convenience store attached to the Shell gas station on the 11,100 block of New Hampshire Avenue in the community of Silver Spring. After grabbing some items, Moore headed up to the counter where he allegedly got into a verbal dispute with the attendant, 61-year-old Ailu Wandimu. It's unclear what started the fight between the two men, but police say things quickly turned ugly. Moore reportedly began to throw items at Wandimu, who attempted to fight back with a metal pole. That's when Moore allegedly pulled out a handgun from within his vest, firing at the employee at close range. Police say that even after the 61-year-old was critically wounded, Moore senselessly continued the attack, reaching over the counter and firing some more. He then fled the scene, leaving Wandimu dead inside. Authorities say that they know this thanks to surveillance footage taken from the scene, which was quickly used to identify Moore. After learning that he lived just across the street from the crime scene at the Enclave Apartments, police obtained a warrant to search the property the following day. That's when things took an even darker turn. According to reports, upon entering Moore's apartment, officers found the remains of a woman. The woman's body was in a, quote, advanced state of decomposition. Police say that Moore later admitted that he had been in a relationship with the woman and that she had been dead for approximately a month. He apparently stated that she had died during some sort of altercation between them. Little is currently known about the alleged female victim, though tragically, police believe that she was roughly 8 months pregnant at the time of her death. At the time of this recording, Moore has been arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, as well as possession of a firearm while committing a felony. Authorities say that they are still investigating the woman's death and are currently trying to determine appropriate further charges. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a minute to thank our amazing supporters over on Patreon. As many of you are aware, our situation on YouTube always seems to be a bit uncertain, but our patrons help to ensure that we can continue to make content like this long-term without having to worry as much about what surprises might be thrown our way. Plus, patrons also get access to 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. If you'd like to help support the channel directly, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to join. You can also find that link in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.